This new report just told us everything about the Houston Rockets and what they plan to do about extending Kevin Durant to a new contract. And so, in this video of Rockets Digest, we're going to give you all of the details as to what's going on and what we are at in this specific situation with KD and his contract. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. Welcome to Rockets Digest, where we break down the latest news, rumors, and updates regarding your H-Town team. And we're going to dive straight into this situation. It's something that all Rockets fans should know about in terms of KD, being the new player in town, the biggest player on the Houston Rockets right now, and about his situation with his contract extension. Where are we at with that as a franchise? Right now, he currently has 1 year left on his deal in that trade with the Phoenix Suns. There's only 1 year left, and we've been expected to extend him to a 2-3 year contract at some point, but that has not yet happened. According to a new report from ESPN, contract extension between Kevin Durant and the Rockets might not happen this off season, which is very big news. It was news that everyone has been waiting to hear to see if the Rockets are going to make a move on this. Of course, with things like the first apron, luxury tax, and the second apron, there's a lot of things to consider when discussing a deal. But here are all of the details as to why that might not happen, as Ben DeBose writes from Rockets Wire. As they navigate various luxury tax and apron thresholds of the NBA's latest collective bargaining agreement, CBA, the Houston Rockets are bracing for an expensive payroll in the 2027-2028 season. That future season is particularly tricky for the Rockets since it's likely to be the first year of a maximum salaried contract extension for rising star Amen Thompson, and potentially the final season of a 2-year extension for an aging superstar Kevin Durant. And so I'm going to take you to a quote of what Tim McMahon here has said about this contract with Kevin Durant, who had a lot to say on the Hoop Collective podcast, saying, quote, "By all appearances and by what I've heard, they're not going all in on an extension for Kevin Durant. That doesn't mean it won't happen. There have been rumblings of, hey, KD isn't going to push for the full max. I don't know that the Rockets are going to put anything on the table that's close to the max. I think the Rockets, ... It's not ideal, but I don't think they would panic if they go into the season with Kevin Durant just on the expiring deal that he's on," end quote. And the reason why we bring up the 2027-2028 season is because that is the season where, if you were to give KD his contract, and that's also the season where guys like Amen Thompson is eligible for that maximum salary contract extension. So it's going to be a very big season financially for the Rockets in 2027-2028. And so a window of, trying to win a championship with a very young roster and a roster that's a lot cheaper than it would be in 3 years is the goal for this franchise. Is the goal for GM Rafael Stone in terms of, designing this roster to be the way it is, so that we're, as of right now, just below the first apron before those penalties come through. I believe we're like $1 million or so away from that. Now, even if the Rockets didn't come to terms on a contract extension with Durant, they would still have bird rights to retain the perennial All-Star entering the 2026 free agency season. And you're probably wondering, what the heck are bird rights? And the bird exception, named after Larry Bird, is a rule included in the NBA's collective bargaining agreement that allows teams to go over the salary cap to re-sign their own players. A player who qualifies for the bird exception, formerly referred to as a qualifying veteran free agent, is said to have bird rights. So as of right now, the Rockets still have bird rights to retain Kevin Durant entering 2026 free agency. Now, it's also worth noting, Ben DeBose points this out, that Durant is far from the only player that Houston is showing restraint with. They're being very conscious of the type of money they're giving out and the kind of contracts that they're setting up. The final 2 seasons of Dorian Finney-Smith's new contract with the Rockets, starting with that aforementioned 2027-28 campaign, are non-guaranteed. The newly signed extensions with Steven Adams and Jabari Smith will both decline in annual value between 26 and this 2026-27 season and the 2027-28 season. Fred VanVleet signed a new contract this offseason for a maximum of 2 years, with the final year being 2026-2027. Now, it's possible that by 2027-2028, which is, about 3 seasons away now, Reed Sheppard could be ready to take the reins at point guard full-time. So then you have to consider the amount of money that would be put on his contract. And with all these new developments right here, there's also the development of a guy like Tari Eason, who the Rockets say they're going to wait a little bit to see if we can make a contract, a video on that soon. So stay tuned for that video as well. And so when you have all these players and all these contracts kind of on the same timeline in terms of when they kind of overlapping, it's very, very restraintful, if that's even a word. The Rockets are showing restraint in just the contracts that they're doing. The money is got to be right, and it has to be something that this team is taking note of, considering the first apron, second apron, and how big the penalties are, and you can't have a roster that is super, super expensive, as we saw with the Boston Celtics. Yes, it worked out for them that 1 year, not last year, but the year prior. They won an NBA championship, good for them, but of course, they had to demolish that team pretty much very, very soon because it was so expensive to keep all of those guys. And so that's something that the Rockets front office is keeping mind of. Now, I'm going to take you to some more quotes from Tim McMahon explaining a little bit more about this situation. This is ESPN's Tim McMahon saying, quote, "The Rockets have done an outstanding job of understanding the new economic environment that the league is in. Teams have to be much better about negotiating every dollar on deals. As we've seen over the past couple of years, deeper teams are probably going to have more success with where the league is headed. You have to mind your PS and QS when it comes to these contracts." I said PS and Qs. P's and Qs, excuse me. "And not be giving out extra money on deals to where you wind up in the second apron sooner. And you have all these difficult financial questions." He even continues on with this quote. He keeps it going, and he says, "The Rockets have done a remarkable job of showing fiscal discipline and restraint all the way through. And I think if they can continue to do that, they're going to have a real advantage over the competition, because we've seen other teams not do that. And I think it's going to bite them later." Now, I find this part to be very, very important. If the Rockets can continue to be disciplined in terms of their fiscal responsibility, right, I feel like that's a very good thing. But you also have to give credit to a guy like Kevin Durant here. This is why you can tell that he is wanting to win a championship. That he really prides himself on having this team be as good as it possibly can be. As we said earlier, Kevin Durant is not quite asking for like the max amount of dollars for his new contract, right? Like, he is willing to take, I believe it was like a $10 million pay cut to make sure that there was enough money to go around to surround himself with a very good team. And so I give credit to Kevin Durant in that aspect, right? Like, to sacrifice that. Like, yes, he already has a lot of money, but it's still a sacrifice that's worth noting. And it's very, very appreciative from Rockets fans, from the front office, from me. I feel like that's a very good thing and a good mindset to have to build a championship team, which he is trying to fight for and obtain in his last years in the NBA. So credit to where credit is due, right? Like, KD is doing us a huge favor by not asking for this max amount of money, because then ultimately that would put us in a fiscal position that isn't quite where we want to be. And so I want to end it on this little quote, or this piece right here by Ben Dubose of the Rockets Wire, saying that the Rockets have shown discipline in acquiring and retaining numerous first-round draft assets in future years, which could help them fill out subsequent rosters with young role players who are on relatively inexpensive rookie-scale contracts, which is a thing that I think a lot of NBA teams are already starting to do, or like know that they have to do. Because of the first apron and second apron rules, you can't just sign like every single all-star on the, like, you have to be able to have a roster that has a lot of young guys that can, make the money make sense, but also uh, build like a new version of your team where you have kind of people of a lot of different ages, a lot of different contracts that work well together. It's all about depth in the NBA. It always has been. I feel like now it's just even more so because they put a price tag on how much you can spend. And so we saw that with a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who pretty much did this to perfection. And as of right now, are still kind of the favorite to go into next year and win the championship again because they are very well constructed, especially signing all those deals with Chet, with Shea, with Jalen Williams this past offseason. So they're taking the steps ahead in that. And of course, there's this last piece. The good news for Houston is that by the 2028-29 season, which is when Durant will be 40 years old, the financial pressures should ease some. Now, historical patterns would suggest that he's likely to either retire or be on a downward career trajectory by that time, which would lead to the future Hall of Famer either coming off Houston's salary books entirely or playing at a much reduced rate. And honestly, I see this situation in 3 years, that 2028-29 season. That for me, that's an absolute win, right? Because let's just say at that point Kevin Durant is on a decline in terms of talent, right? Okay, then you kind of don't have to spend as much money on a guy like KD. If he's having a season where he's like LeBron and he's balling out and he's doing great things, then he's doing great things. If he's still making this team a really good team, then so be it. Like, keep him on the team. I mean, regardless, you're probably going to sign him to less money if he's already going to be wanting to take less money now, right? Like, it's a good problem to have. Like, your Hall of Fame player is playing like a Hall of Famer still at 40 years old. Like, okay, so be it, right? Like, it's still a good problem to have if you're the Houston Rockets. Either way you look at it in that specific season. But yes, these are all of the updates in terms of that Kevin Durant contract. As of right now, it does not look like it's going to happen this year, which is not the end of the world. That's not anything in terms of like uh, an anger between the two sides. Like, it's really just the money doesn't make quite sense right now. A deal will probably get done, right? It might get done next season. Just might not be this season. Rockets fans, if you're looking for an announcement in terms of that, must be patient, right? Patience is a virtue. And so we will give you that update if anything changes, right? If anything changes with Katie's contract and if there's a new update, we'll have them for you right here on Rockets Digest. And that is why you subscribe to the channel, for those updates, to stay in the loop with what this team is doing, the front office, and what the players are doing on all off season. We're a long way from the opening day or opening night of the NBA, but we're going to give you all the updates and keep you up to date on what the Rockets are up to. And so with that, I'm Donovan Ricondo. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.